I'm licensed to practice law only in the state of Georgia, and thus all of the discussion we're going to have about adoption law and procedure is based solely on Georgia law. The laws of your particular state may vary widely from Georgia. So these informative interviews are not to be used as a substitute for sound legal advice by a qualified adoption attorney, and are not to be construed as creating an attorney-client privilege or relationship solely based on these interviews.
Do you have a list of birth moms or children ready to be adopted?
No, I don't, and that's a question I get asked very often. Very occasionally, I'll get a call from a midwife or a OB doctor who's just delivered a baby, and the mom has expressed a desire to place the baby for adoption. They've not made an adoption plan, but they've decided they can't parent the child. So then I'll get a call sometimes from a frantic prospective adoptive family saying, my doctor just called and there's a baby at the hospital. What did I do? What do I do? Can you help me? And of course, I say, of course I can help you, no problem. That happened on Christmas Eve this year, as a matter of fact. Typically, when adoptive parents call me, though, they've already made a connection with a biological mom, either through friends, relatives, neighbors, church family, that sort of thing.
Well, how do I find a baby to adopt?
Well, it is illegal in the state of Georgia to advertise for adoption. Georgia prides itself on being a state that does not permit or allow baby selling, and I adhere to very strict ethics and very strong ethics with the bar in not permitting anything illegal or even the hint of impropriety to happen. But I always urge folks to network, to tell their family, their friends, their college roommate, people they lived with when they or lived near when they worked somewhere else. You know, our society is so mobile today that people are scattered all over the United States. Facebook's great. You can't say I want a child, but you can say we're looking to grow our family, that sort of thing. It's interesting how babies get placed from far-flung networks of family and friends.
Well, but where do I start? How do you start?
Well, you start with your friends and your wife's OBGYN. They know of who might be interested in adoption. Younger women that are in an unexpected pregnancy, that sort of thing. Network with friends. That's the number one key. It's like throwing the rock in the pond and it ripples out. Mm-hmm. The more people you tell and the more people that you know, the more far-flung your influence and your request and your desire for a child is going to spread.
What are the costs with a private adoption?
Well, it varies with the degree of difficulty. Sometimes it's hard or impossible to find the biological or the legal father, and sometimes there's both a biological and a legal father. And whether or not the adoption becomes contested, that sort of thing, and the time I spend on a case. Again, you know, my fees vary with the complexity of a case, and I'm charging for my experience and my expertise.
Can I adopt a baby from another state?
Sure. That's not a problem at all. You do have to comply with the ICPC, that's the Interstate Compact on the Placement of Children, which means your home study needs to be a little more extensive, and you have to be approved by the sending state, like if you found a baby in Alabama. And Alabama would have to approve that adoption, and then they would send it to Atlanta, and the ICPC or administrator here would approve the adoption. Then you could bring the baby home and finalize here. I have several resources for home study agents who have excellent qualifications. Now, an attorney in the other state must be retained to make sure that all the paperwork is done properly. You don't want anything to slip through the cracks.
What if the birth mom that we've contacted doesn't know who the father is? What do we do?
Well, that happens. And if the father is truly unknown, and if it's a Georgia baby, then We do. I'll do a search of the Georgia Putative Father Registry, which is a very unknown registry, as you can imagine, that enables a man to sign up on the registry in the event that he believes he may have fathered a child. And in Georgia, a man is put on notice, legal notice, that a child might result from having relations with another woman, or with a woman rather. So sometimes the birth mother is candid and transparent, and she really truly doesn't know, and sometimes she's trying to protect herself or others. But depending on the certification of the Putative Father Registry, the rights of the biological father will be terminated prior to the finalization of the adoption. I cross every T and dot every I.
What are your attorney's fees for a private adoption?
Well, again, it depends on the difficulty of the case, whether or not another state is involved, and whether or not the case becomes contested.